The important characters from Lear is something that we need to be looking at in the next few days as we head towards the exam. So my aim here, I'm going to do 4 little videos now in the next while, is to blitz through 4 characters in 10 quotes each, in very, very short revision videos. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop on a stopwatch onto the screen here, and I'm going to time each one with the idea that none of these videos should exceed 10 minutes. I'm hoping that they'll be significantly shorter than 10 minutes because I know that time is something that you guys feel you don't have a lot of at the moment. So we'll just stick that stopwatch up into the top corner here, and then we get going, okay? And I'm going to do Edmund in this video. Then I'm going to record one on Edgar. I'm going to record one on Kent. And I'm going to record one on the Fool. And the idea will be that, you know, no matter what they ask, they might not ask character questions specifically about anybody. But the more you know about these characters, the more options you have to make points in relation to whatever question does come up. Because the characters are part of the play. So if they ask team-based questions or language-based questions or modern appeal type questions, you can always refer to different characters. Okay, let's go. So, what do we know about Edmund? Well, he is the illegitimate son of the Earl of Gloucester, and he looks at that status as a death sentence for his chances of happiness and fulfillment. In Act 1, Scene 2, in soliloquy, he says, "Wherefore should I stand in the plague of custom?" That's a key quote. You need to know it. He sees customary treatment, traditional treatment of illegitimate children as fatal, just like getting the plague would be fatal. That's a great example of disease imagery. And we know he is determined. In the same soliloquy, the first soliloquy that he delivers, he says, "Edmund the Bay shall top the legitimate." Now we all know it's a brilliant example of juxtaposition, and it shows his determination and his ambition. In the same scene, again through soliloquy, Shakespeare shows us the nature of this guy's character. He is cunning and scheming, and he is ruthless. He enjoys his power to manipulate his father, and he describes his father as being a credulous father and his brother as being noble. And he says his brother's nature is so far from doing harms that he suspects none, and therefore on his foolish honesty my practices ride easy. I see the business. So what's he saying? He's saying, I know what I want to do. I know how to do it. So he is thoughtful, intelligent. He's a good judge of character. He is cynical. He is ruthless, and he will exploit the weaknesses that he sees in others. In the same speech from Act 1, Scene 2, he says brilliantly, "Let me, if not by birth, have lands by wit, all with me's meet that I can fashion fit." And that is one of the most interesting quotes in the play. He recognises that the circumstances of his birth, the fact that he's illegitimate, means that he cannot be powerful. In this world, the ownership of land equals wealth, equals power, equals status. And he's saying, I'm going to use my wits, my intelligence to get what I want, because I haven't been handed anything. And in that sense, he's a very modern character and very relatable character. But then when he says this, he becomes much more sinister. All with me's meet that I can fashion fit means I have no moral limits. There is nothing I will not do in order to achieve my goal. It's that old Machiavellian phrase, the ends justify the means. By Act 2, he has succeeded in usurping his brother as his father's heir. That was his first aim. He creates this forged letter, he creates this myth, this fantasy of Edgar's plot against Gloucester. Gloucester is gullible, Gloucester falls for it, he believes his son Edmund is acting in his best interest, and he says, "Loyal and natural boy, I'll work the means to make thee capable." A crucial quote and a great example of irony in the play, because Edmund is not loyal, he is a scheming traitor. But Gloucester doesn't know that. That's also a brilliant example of dramatic irony. That moment when we know that Edmund is plotting to destroy his father, and yet his father embraces him and rewards him. Later on in the play, when Gloucester in Act 3 tells Edmund that he's going to help the king. Though I die for it, as no less is threatened me, the king, my old master, must be relieved. Edmund, in an aside, when his father leaves to go and help Lear, immediately says, "This courtesy forbid thee shall the Duke," don't forget that's Cornwall, "instantly know, the younger rise while the old that fall." And again, it's a brilliant moment of drama in the play, creates huge tension and anticipation, foreshadows the terrible torture scene of Act 3, Scene 7, and also the imagery of rising and falling, capturing Edmund's ambition. And the fact that he says he's going to tell the Duke instantly shows there's no hesitation, no moral break. He will not allow any sense of loyalty to his father or duty to family get in the way of his ambition. That ruthless quality is also evident by Act 4. By Act 4, he is seduced. I suppose that's the wrong word to use because it creates a sense that they have no role, but he has forged this relationship with both Goneril and Regan. They suspect each other, but they are both devoted to him and they are both rivals for him. And he, again, in an aside, cynically comments to both these sisters, "Have I sworn my love?" And then he goes on, he says, "Which of them shall I take?" And what he's saying there is he's giving voice to the fact that he doesn't care about either Goneril or Regan. What he cares about is what they can give him. And what they can give him is access to power. He began as the bastard son, then he became the heir by disposing of his brother. He then became the Earl of Gloucester by disposing of his father. And now he looks at Goneril and Regan, both of whom have royal power given to them by Lear in the abdication scene of Act 1, and he wants royal power. He tells the audience, "My state stands on me to defend, not to debate." What does it mean? It means I have no time for questions of morality. I have no patience for, asking whether or not something is ethical. Ethics mean nothing to me. My job is to do whatever it takes to get what I want and to be as ruthless as I can be. And in that sense, he represents the worst of us. He represents that modern capitalist, Machiavellian state of mind that it doesn't matter who you have to crush, who you have to stand on, who you have to make homeless, who you have to, hurt in order to get what you want, as long as you get what you want. And that is why he's one of the most interesting characters in the play, because even though the play was written 400 years ago, he is such a modern, recognizable man. Later on, by Act 5, he orders a regicide. Don't forget, a regicide is a crime almost unimaginable to an Elizabethan Shakespearean audience, or Jacobean. This play was written during the period of King James. And when he tells his soldier, the captain, to go and murder Lear and Cordelia, he says, "Men are as the time is. To be tender-minded does not become a sword," and that sums Edmund up. The sword is hard, sharp, and cold. There is no room, he says, for emotion, no room for ethics, no room for morality. You've got to do whatever it takes to get the job done. So he is, again, corrupt and sinister and scary and, represents the worst of humanity. At the end of the play, one of the most interesting and dramatic moments in the play is that moment where Shakespeare teases us with the possibility that Edmund might actually succeed, that evil can win, because Shakespeare has Regan turn to Edmund and say, "General, take thee my soldiers, prisoners, patrimony." And of course that word patrimony is so important because it means what she was given by her father. And that's a crown. And that's a wonderful moment because we can see in Edmund's face this moment when everything he's been working towards is coming true, and yet we know it's not going to happen because we know that Regan has been poisoned by her sister, and we also know that Oswald was killed by Edgar. Edgar received the letters, got access to the letters between Edmund and Goneril, and then has given in Act 5, Scene 1, those letters to Albany. So Albany then arrests him. The final important quote about Edgar but through Edmund is spoken by his brother Edgar at the end of the play, where justice is at last done, and this villain, this in many ways at the beginning of the play, utterly relatable character who morphs into this monster who will crush anybody and anything to get what he wants. At the end of the play, he receives natural justice. He is confronted by his brother. They fight. He doesn't know it's his brother at that time. They fight, and he is told by his brother Edgar that he's a traitor. and he's betrayed everything he's supposed to have been loyal to. He's been false to his gods, false to his brother, false to his father, and as a consequence, he deserves to die. And I think it's really, really interesting that Edmund dies in the way he dies, not pleading for his life, not scrambling around in the dust, begging for mercy. He accepts his fate. He was a gambler. He gambled and he lost.